In this MenuMasters Spotlight episode, Stacey Bayless, contributing editor for Nation's Restaurant News, sits down to talk with Chef Beverly Kim, chef and owner of Wherewithall and Parachute restaurants, both located in Chicago, Illinois. As a chef, restaurant owner, founder of The Abundant Setting, a wife, and a mother, Chef Beverly Kim explains how she finds time to balance it all. MenuMasters Spotlight is brought to you by Ventura Foods. Together, we make food extraordinary.
I'm Stacey Bayless, contributing editor for Nation's Restaurant News, and I'm sitting with Beverly Kim, chef owner of Parachute and Wherewithall here in Chicago. Beverly, thank you so much for sitting down to talk to me today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. So I'd love for you to talk to me a little bit about your first food memory.
Oh, my first food memory.
Yeah.
I actually can remember it. I was sitting on my mom's lap. I must have been about 3 years old, and she was hand feeding me some rice doused with hot water, poured hot water over it, and some garlic. We call it manojong, garlic stems, the young garlic stems that come out early in the spring. Pickle. So it was very clear to me, like it was just like so delicious, and she was hand feeding it to me. That was my first food memory, and it was a kimchi with rice. And it was just, I remember feeling so loved and comforted, and I think that stuck with me.
It's interesting because one of the things that we have talked about with you is motherhood and nurturing and feeding are a through line for you throughout your whole career, and certainly now with your restaurants. You've got 2 restaurants and 3 kids, so you've got 5 kids that you're managing all at once. But this theme of really using food to connect with people and to nurture people. Was food a big part of your growing up at home? Was food important within your family?
Absolutely. It was very traditional. And so there's a lot of side dishes in Korean food. And so I was like my mom's sous chef, and I would help her set the table. I just remember my dad would really let loose. You know, he would get really comfortable sitting in his chair, and like, you know, Korean food being spicy and really hot, like if a soup is like boiling hot, and just like all of us kind of like our sinuses letting go, you know, everything kind of letting go. And it was honestly one of the happiest memories I can ever think of is just like having our family time at the kitchen table. And yeah, I think it really brought us together.
So your mom was a good cook, really good cook. Was she a passionate cook?
Yes. She put a lot of attention to detail, I feel like, to the food. Like even just the way she cut things, the way the menu changed all the time. Like, I don't know, she only had like 1 or 2 cookbooks, and she never really referred to them. So it always like, it was like a miracle to me that she had all this wealth of Korean food knowledge without, you know, having a cookbook. So it all came from like memories and her own food memories.
It's so interesting because, you know, you talk a lot, often you talk to people, especially in some immigrant families, where it is the responsibility of the mother to provide the food, and they may be very good at it, but somehow resentful of it, or it's nice that it was such a spiritual practice for her and such an, you know, something she was proud of. And do you think that helped inform some of your interest in being a cook at such a young age? Because you were very young when you sort of realized that you might want to do this for a career.
Yeah, I guess I never realized how much that had an influence on me. So when I remember my French class in 7th grade, we had maybe it was 8th grade, we had an extra credit assignment, and then you can choose anything, and I chose cooking. So I got my first French cookbook, and the first time I ever did haricot vert with shallots, chocolate mousse. I didn't even know what thyme was or balsamic vinegar or any of those things. So I put this whole menu together and put music in the dining room. My parents dressed up, used the fine china, and it was really fun for me.
Yeah. With your mom being a passionate cook, being a really good cook, being a very precise and, you know, really focused cook, Was she excited when you showed an aptitude, when you got passionate as well? Was that something that you were able to really share together?
Absolutely, yeah. Actually, so when I was in Kendall College, we had an assignment to create your own version of the restaurant. And mine got 110%, you know, did the whole business plan and everything. And at the time I called it ondol, like Korean comfort food or something like that. And I showed my mom and she's like, Beverly, let's just open the restaurant right now. I was like, Mom, I need like 10 years of kitchen experience before I can even think about opening a restaurant. But she got really excited. I thought that was really beautiful.
That's beautiful. Was your dad also supportive of your work as a cook or your interest in cooking as a career?
Yes and no. My dad is complex. So I was the last of 4 daughters. Imagine like 2 weddings, 3 colleges by the time I go to college, and I actually got into Northwestern. But I was also considering culinary school because at that point I did shadow at the Ritz-Carlton. I was told to go to culinary school. Chef Sarah Stegner advised that there's a great one locally, and the name kept coming up, Kendall College. So I was like, okay, I go to Kendall College, and it was a 2-year program. And so part of me was like, well, I can start working in 2 years. I won't have accrue as many loans. You know, I can do this. So it was sort of out of independence, I chose the culinary path. I even considered going to the military cooking so that I wouldn't be a financial burden to my parents. But I was like, I also can't see myself fighting. I'm not, like if I had to.
Beverly Kim at boot camp is not an image that I have in my head.
Yeah, really. I got close, but that was not the path I chose. But you know, and I think there's so many paths to becoming a chef that even if I did do that, I feel like I'd still be here too, today. So,
well, you were very clear. I mean, you went to culinary school, you were 17, is that
yeah,
right?
I was 17.
Yeah, that's very young to really say, it's worth it to me to make this commitment, and also to skip, whether it was Northwestern or somewhere else, to skip that 4-year college, that social community. I mean, I would imagine you were probably the youngest or one of the youngest.
Yes, but I think at a young age, it's weird, but I was thinking about how I wanted to live my life, and something that really stuck out to me was when I shadowed Yves Roubaud. And he said, he was at Shaw's Crab House in Chicago at the time, and he said, well, it's a hard job, yes, but if you see it as fulfillment, you'll never work a day in your life. And the common thread that everyone that I shadowed or interviewed as a high school student did say, it is hard, long hours, low pay, blah, blah, blah. But they always ended with like, but if you're passionate about it, it's a fulfillment, it's a purpose. And that always stuck with me, and I think that's timeless.
Another unfortunate through line for a lot of these industries is that sense of it being harder for women, right? And I think one of the things that is interesting about looking at your history and your career is that you started with some very formative experiences with strong women around food, right? You worked with your mother, and she was a passionate cook, and you shadowed Chef Sarah Stegner, who's a James Beard winner, who's very strong and leads kitchens and shows you that professional thing. You found a woman in culinary school, this older woman, to kind of get through it together and be pals. Do you think that that's really important for younger culinarians as they're coming up to find those mentors, those relationships with other common people, whether that's a woman connection, whether that's a cultural connection? How important was that for you, do you think?
Yeah, I think like having people who have similar experiences, and you know, women who are willing to be vulnerable or like to share some of that was very nice for me. Yeah, as a more experienced person in talking to other people, it's okay to advocate for yourself. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to like say, that makes me uncomfortable, you know, and point it out. But it took a while and experience in not being the only person to like navigate that on your own.
Right. I want to go back though a little bit, because being a mom and having 3 beautiful kids is a big part of your life and a big part of how you've built your business and your career, because you did it at the same time, which is very rare.
Yes.
Right? So many women chefs, they think, I'll wait till the kids are older, till the kids are school, I won't pursue this. You really did it all at the same time. Maybe you could share a little bit about your very early stages, meeting your husband and the two of you deciding to take this restaurant journey together, because he's also a big part.
Yeah, well, I think there's something about life that is a somewhat like destiny and somewhat it's like prep. You know, like you can prepare all you want, but then somebody comes into your life, and we fell in love immediately with like Johnny is also my chef partner and owner. But he was the first person that I had met that had respect for me as a chef, as a woman, and my culture. He also had dreams. Like he was a journeyer, a wanderer. Like he was not afraid to go to Europe and backpack. He was not afraid to go to Korea, even though he doesn't know the language. He was not afraid to make these connections. And I feel like a lot of that was me too, right? Like being that 16-year-old writing a random letter to like Roland Lucioni, you know, or Sarah Stegner. It takes a little like balls, you know? And I was like, I think in partnership, like having a business partner or a life partner, I heard this the other day and I'm gonna use it. It's someone who will sacrifice their own time or energy, or their sacrifice X because they know it would be better for you, and vice versa. That's a good partnership. And when I met him, it was like, wow, let's dream. Let's go to Korea together. Let's open a restaurant. So after we married in 2009, we opened Parachute 2014. So the process of us getting married, having a baby, to opening Parachute was a very long, hard one.
But you also were smart enough and experienced enough, both of you, to know where you needed to find help. I think a lot of people sort of assume you're a owner of 2 restaurants, you're a James Beard winner, you're Michelin-starred. They might not know that when you started, you were on Medicaid, to have these children, that you were taking advantage of social programs. I think it would be interesting for people to hear some of how you needed to figure out how to navigate that system to make sure that you had what you needed to be ready to start these businesses.
So we started off working at Whole Foods. We kind of gave up the restaurant life for a little bit. And we worked at the same place, and I would work from 5 to 2, and he would meet me at Whole Foods with a baby, pass off like a football, and then he would work from like 2:30 to like 10. And the problem with that was we never saw each other. The advantage to that is we didn't have to pay for a babysitter, because what the babysitter would cost would be more than what we were making as cooks at Whole Foods. The next step was, when I was at Aria, I made enough of salary to be the breadwinner of the family, and my husband stayed with the kid. Was really exciting for John at the beginning, but then he started to get depressed because he also felt like his dreams were on the back burner. We put our child then in daycare, because you know all your friends like, what daycare do you recommend? It was a really nice one, but it cost so much money. It was like a college tuition. And it didn't exactly fit our needs because I worked from 11 to 11. So I basically, on a lot of days, didn't see my kid from 9 till, I didn't see him all day until like midnight. So we did that for a little bit. And then opening Parachute, because we had to quit our jobs to focus on opening Parachute, but we had to work jobs to pay the bills, whether it was prep cooking or taking catering gigs and stuff. But as a family, we were only making $31,000. We hit this threshold. We were able to apply for Medicaid. And I just somehow really believe that there was a way through it. I had a big dream young, and then I still have a big dream, and I try to I just enjoy dreaming very big. And you start with the dream, and then you figure out how to get there. If you start with the how to get there, first, then I think we would have given up by now, because they're like, oh, there's no way we could do that. There's no way we could do that. And sometimes it takes time and trying many different things and different avenues, like, oh, that didn't work. Oh, that didn't work. I mean, I can't tell you how many different nannies or babysitters or different situations I've tried. You lose money trying, and you feel like defeated because like, well, I just wasted that money. I just wasted this. I just wasted time. But eventually you find something that's just right for you. So if my lifetime, I can actually help another working mother be more efficient with how they're going to do this, they just save themselves so much more time. And if we can grow those resources and that network, now you have people that there's so many times I felt so alone, because there was no one like me. And you know, sometimes you get caught comparing yourself to other people, and when you don't have anyone who has a similar situation, it's kind of detrimental, because you feel like you should be here, or your child should be doing this, and you should be doing this as a family, but no one else has your situation.
Right. Well, it's the law of the kitchen, right?
Right.
Watch one, do one, teach one.
Right.
Right. How do you handle menu innovation for both the restaurants? What drives that? How do you guys handle that together? What does that process look like?
With the menu at Parachute, because we don't have a chef de cuisine, but we have 2 sous chefs who are very, very great cooks. So they're excellent cooks, but because it's Korean food, they might need more direction and more. They don't like not growing up in Korea or not growing up here with Korean food, but they're trained cooks. They've been with us for a few years now, and there's trust built up. So now they're learning how to manage themselves and manage others, actually. So it's growth for everybody. But so the way we work the menu is we come up with the idea. John and I have an idea of how we're going to do it, and then we do a trial, and then we tweak it. And sometimes I get stuck, and I'm like, John, what do you think about this? Or he might get stuck, and he'll ask me. And that's the beauty of having 2 people to talk to who have culinary training. In an ideal world, like the only way you can scale your business is if you train people to do some of these jobs, so that you trust them that they're going to make some of those decisions, and they can make those calls.
Well, and you create a working environment that empowers them, that they want to do those jobs because they want to be a part of what you're creating.
Exactly, because it has to come from within too. I almost want to hold back and see if they'll do it on their own. And if they can do it on their own and think like an owner, I'm like, you're ready for the next step.
Well, the thing that I love about your story is how much your life and your work are intertwined. Everything that makes you a good chef owner also makes you a good mom, and everything that makes you a good mom makes you a good chef owner. They're completely integrated.
Yes,
which is,
I believe in it. Work-life integration, because you only have so many. Literally, if I'm telling you my schedule that from 8 to 10 o'clock, I'm involved in the restaurant somehow or working on the restaurant, I have to love it. I have to enjoy it. So anyone watching this needs to see it that way. Do you enjoy people? Okay, maybe that's not your first, but you will have, the reason why you love to cook is you like to make people happy. Remember that. Remember that you enjoy making people happy with your gift. And you enjoy learning and being educated. I can never say I know every single technique. I'm constantly getting better. Do you like working with your hands? Do you like making something? Do you enjoy oh wow, I just saw the time just pass, that's a restaurant business, and it's as hard as it is awesome. And I wouldn't choose any other career at this point.
Beverly, thank you so much for your time. It's always a treat to sit and talk to you.
Oh, pleasure's mine.